When someone starts taking you for granted, the natural instinct is to focus on them, what they're doing wrong, why they've changed, and how you can make them see your worth. But the real shift happens when you stop making it about them and start making it about you. The moment you take the energy that you've been investing in figuring out how to get their attention and redirect it toward yourself, everything changes. Think about it. When was the last time you truly prioritized yourself? Not in a way that was performative, hoping they'd notice and suddenly appreciate you, but in a way that was genuinely for you. When you put your attention, your time, your love, and your energy into someone who isn't reciprocating at the level you deserve, you are teaching them that they don't need to step up. They don't need to put in effort because they know you'll always be there. And that's the problem, being too predictable, too available, too forgiving of inconsistency. It's not about playing games or making someone chase you. It's about reclaiming the power you've been giving away. If you're constantly waiting for their texts, planning around their schedule, and making excuses for their lack of effort, you're not in control of your own happiness anymore. You're letting them dictate it. But here's the thing, high-value people don't sit around waiting to be chosen. They don't wait for someone to suddenly wake up and realize their worth. They already know their worth. And because of that, they move accordingly. Imagine you're in a store looking at two handbags. One is displayed like every other bag, easy to grab, always available. The other is behind glass with limited availability, something you have to ask for, something that requires effort to get. Which one do you value more? The one that requires effort, not because it's playing hard to get, but because it represents exclusivity, something rare, something that not everyone gets access to. Now, take a moment and ask yourself, are you treating yourself like the first bag or the second? Because if you're constantly giving, constantly available, constantly compromising, you're making yourself too easy to take for granted. And let me be clear, valuing yourself doesn't mean being arrogant or withholding affection. It means recognizing that your time, energy, and love are precious and should be given to those who truly deserve them. So how do you shift the focus back to you? First, start pouring into yourself the way you've been pouring into them. Think about the things you've been neglecting because your attention has been so wrapped up in them. Maybe it's your passions, your friendships, your personal goals. It's time to get back to those things, not as a strategy to make them miss you, but because you deserve a life that's fulfilling regardless of their presence. Stop waiting for them to acknowledge you. Acknowledge yourself. If you've been canceling plans, adjusting your schedule, or holding back on experiences just in case they call or want to see you, that stops now. Start making plans that don't revolve around them. Fill your calendar with things that excite you, things that make you feel alive, things that remind you of who you are outside of this person. Because when you're living a full life, you naturally become more attractive. Not because you're trying to make someone jealous, but because confidence and fulfillment are magnetic. And here's what happens when you do this. When you stop making them the center of your world, when you stop being the person who's always waiting, they feel the shift. They notice the absence of your constant availability. They realize that the person they once assumed would always be there is now prioritizing herself. And that, more than anything, is what creates change. You don't need to beg for appreciation. You don't need to remind someone over and over how they should treat you. What you need to do is live in a way that naturally commands the respect and effort you deserve. And if they can't meet you there, then you have your answer. You don't chase, you don't plead, you simply move on, knowing that the right person won't need to be convinced of your worth. And that's the moment they truly see what they took for granted. You see, one of the biggest reasons people get taken for granted is because they make themselves too available. And I get it, when you care about someone, you want to be there. You want to show up, be supportive, be the person they can always count on. But here's the problem, when something is always available, it starts to lose its perceived value. Not because it isn't valuable, but because human nature takes it for granted. Think about it, if you had a friend who always said yes to every last-minute plan, every favor, every late-night call, you'd start assuming they'd always be there. You wouldn't even stop to consider the possibility that one day they might say no. And in relationships, this happens all the time. You answer his texts immediately. You cancel your plans to accommodate him. You rearrange your schedule just to be more convenient for him. And at first, he might appreciate it. But over time, he stops noticing. Not because he's a bad person, but because the effort becomes invisible when it's constant. The moment you stop being a given, when you stop always saying yes, when you stop always being free whenever he wants you, he starts to notice the shift. Not because you're playing games, but because you're changing the way you treat yourself. And the way you treat yourself teaches him how to treat you. If you never make your time feel precious, he won't think it is. If you don't show that you have boundaries, he won't assume they exist. But let's be clear, this isn't about pretending to be busy or making artificial distance. This is about actually living a life that doesn't revolve around him. You don't need to text back immediately. You don't need to be the first to initiate plans every single time. You don't need to drop everything because he suddenly decided he wants to see you. And when you start doing this, something powerful happens. He starts wondering where your attention is going. He starts realizing he doesn't have unlimited access to you anymore. And that alone makes him reconsider how he's been showing up in the relationship. People respect what they have to earn. If you give someone a key to your house before they've even knocked on the door, they don't value it the same way as if they had to prove they deserved to be let in. The same goes for your time, your energy, your presence. If he never has to think twice about whether you'll be there, he stops appreciating that you are. But the moment you shift your attention to yourself, to your goals, your friendships, your passions, he has to recalibrate. He has to realize that being with you isn't a guarantee, it's a privilege. Now, some people might say, but what if he doesn't even care? What if I pull back and he just lets me go? And that right there is your answer. If someone only values you when you're constantly making it easy for them, then they never truly valued you in the first place. A person who genuinely cares about you will notice when your energy shifts and they will step up. A person who takes you for granted will only notice when they've already lost you. The beautiful thing is that when you start focusing on yourself, you don't even need to worry about his reaction because the right person will recognize your worth without you having to prove it. And the wrong person, they'll fade away when they realize they can no longer take advantage of your effort. Either way, you win. Because when you stop being overly available, the people who truly appreciate you rise to the surface. And those who don't, well, they remove themselves from your life. And that's not a loss, that's clarity. If you keep showing up for someone who barely tries, what message does that send? It tells them they don't need to do anything different because no matter how little effort they put in, you're still there. And the truth is, people don't value what they don't have to work for. That's not manipulation, that's human nature. The things we cherish most in life are the things we had to earn. Think about it, your career, your fitness, the friendships that truly matter to you, all of them required effort. And because you had to work for them, you protect them, you respect them. You don't take them for granted. So why is it that when it comes to love, we forget this? Why is it that instead of setting the standard for what we deserve, we keep giving someone more when they give us less? It's because we hope that if we just prove our worth enough, if we just show them how much we care, they'll wake up one day and realize how incredible we are. But that's not how attraction works. People don't suddenly value what has been freely given over and over again without effort. They value what they fear losing. If someone is taking you for granted, the answer isn't to try harder. The answer is to stop rewarding bare minimum effort. And here's what that actually looks like. It means no longer making excuses for why they don't show up for you in the way you need. It means recognizing that their repeated behavior isn't an accident, it's a choice. And if they're choosing not to invest in you, you have to stop investing in them. You don't have to be angry, you don't have to be cold, You just have to stop giving more than you're receiving. Think about the person who only calls when they need something, who only makes plans when it's convenient for them, who expects you to be there but never goes out of their way for you. If you keep responding to those late night texts, if you keep rearranging your schedule for them at a moment's notice, if you keep making their life easier without them ever considering yours, you are teaching them that they can have access to you without any real effort. And why would they change when they don't have to? So instead, do something radical. Pause. The next time they reach out, don't be so quick to respond. The next time they cancel on you, don't immediately reschedule. The next time they give you the bare minimum, don't reward it with your time and energy. Let them feel your absence. Let them wonder where your attention has gone. And if they truly care, if they truly want you in their life, they will notice the shift. They will feel the space you've created and realize they don't want to lose you. Now, this doesn't mean you play games. It doesn't mean you pretend to be busy or ignore someone just to prove a point. It means you live in alignment with your worth. It means you don't allow yourself to be in a one-sided situation where you're the only one showing up. You can only give so much before you drain yourself. And you deserve more than to be drained by someone who isn't filling you back up. People rise to the level of expectation you set. If you keep rewarding minimal effort, that's all you will ever get. But the moment you show through action, not just words, that you require more, one of two things will happen. Either they will step up or they will step out. And either way, you win. Because if they step up, it means they care enough to meet your standard. And if they step out, it means they were never going to in the first place, and now you're free to make space for someone who will. This isn't about punishment, it's about clarity. Clarity in what you need, clarity in what you expect, and clarity in who actually values you. So stop waiting for someone to recognize your worth. Live it. And if they don't match it, you already have your answer. You see, one of the biggest mistakes people make when they feel taken for granted is either staying silent and hoping things change on their own, or blowing up in frustration after bottling it up for too long. Neither works. The first keeps you stuck in a dynamic where your needs are ignored, and the second makes you seem reactive instead of composed and self-assured. The key is to communicate, but communicate in a way that demands respect without desperation. When someone isn't appreciating you the way they should, you don't need to scream it from the rooftops or keep dropping hints hoping they'll catch on. You just need to express yourself in a way that's calm, clear, and direct, not as an emotional plea, not as a guilt trip, but as a simple, matter-of-fact statement about what you need and what isn't working for you. Something like, I need to feel appreciated and valued in a relationship. Right now, I don't feel that. That's it. No over-explaining, no long-winded monologues about everything they've done wrong, just a clear, confident expression of what you require. And then you do the hardest part. You step back. This is where most people falter, because the moment they've said their piece, they immediately start overcompensating. They try to make the other person understand by repeating themselves in different ways, checking in, asking if they're okay, hoping for a change that happens overnight. But here's the truth. If someone truly values you, they'll reflect on what you said and step up on their own. If they don't, no amount of nagging or explaining will change that. What you do next is more powerful than anything you could say, because it's in that moment that you show them what it actually means to risk losing you. When you step back, you're giving them space to make a choice. Not out of pressure, not out of obligation, but out of a genuine realization that you are not someone who will stick around in a situation where they are not appreciated. You're giving them the chance to either show up in a real way or to show you, through their inaction, that they were never going to. And that's information you need. Now, this doesn't mean you punish them with silence or play mind games to get their attention. This isn't about manipulation. This is about self-respect. It's about recognizing that if someone truly wants to be with you, they should be just as invested in making the relationship work as you are. And if they're not, you don't chase after them trying to force them to see your worth. You let them come to that realization themselves, or you move forward knowing that you deserve better. What's fascinating is how people respond when you do this the right way. The ones who care, who were maybe just caught up in their own world, will take a step back and realize, wait, I don't want to lose this person. And you'll see the effort shift. The way they speak to you, the way they prioritize you, it will change because now they understand that your presence in their life isn't something to be taken lightly. But the ones who don't care enough, the ones who make no effort, even after you've calmly communicated your needs, they will drift. And as painful as that may be, it's also your clearest sign that they were never truly invested in the first place. And isn't that better to know now, rather than wasting more time waiting for someone to value you the way you deserve? What makes this approach so powerful is that it forces a real decision. No more wondering if they just didn't get it. No more sitting in confusion, waiting for things to change. You've done your part, you've been clear, and now the responsibility is on them to act. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. If you step back and they suddenly start making an effort, your job isn't to immediately reward them for the bare minimum. It's to watch, observe, see if their actions match their words consistently over time. Because a temporary burst of effort just to keep you around isn't enough. Real appreciation, real change, it's proven over time, not in one grand gesture or a week of better behavior. If someone truly values you, that effort will continue because they don't want to risk making the same mistake twice. This is why so many people get stuck in cycles of feeling unappreciated. They set a boundary, the person panics and does just enough to keep them around. And then once things feel safe again, the old patterns return. The only way to break that cycle is to make sure the effort isn't just a temporary reaction to fear, but a real shift in how they treat you long term. So if you find yourself feeling taken for granted, stop trying to prove your worth to someone who should already see it. Speak your truth. Step back. Let their actions show you whether they truly value you or just enjoy the convenience of having you around. Because the moment you do that, you reclaim your power. And whether they rise to meet you or not, you win. Because either way, you are no longer settling for anything less than what you deserve. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that your standards dictate the way people treat you. The way you allow someone to show up for you today sets the tone for how they will continue to show up tomorrow. If you accept inconsistency, they'll keep being inconsistent. If you tolerate bare minimum effort, they'll keep giving you the bare minimum. It's not because they're bad people, it's because they're simply following the rules you've set. Now, what do I mean by rules? Every single time you let something slide that doesn't sit right with you, you are teaching someone how much they can get away with. You're signaling, this is okay with me. And before you know it, you're in a dynamic where you feel undervalued, unheard, and unseen. But here's the truth, it's not just about them treating you that way, it's about you allowing it to happen. I get it. It's easy to make excuses for someone you care about. Maybe he's just busy. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe if I just give it more time, things will change. But every time you justify behavior that makes you feel less than, you are chipping away at your own worth. You are telling yourself, my needs don't matter as much. And let me tell you, if you don't take your own needs seriously, why should anyone else? The reality is, people treat us based on what we accept. If you make it effortless for someone to have you in their life without putting in any real effort, why would they suddenly wake up one day and decide to do more? It doesn't work that way. If you want to be valued, you have to set the bar and refuse to let it drop, no matter how much you like someone. No matter how much you want things to work. I'm not saying you need to be cold or play games. This isn't about manipulating someone into treating you better. This is about self-respect. This is about having the courage to walk away when someone continuously shows you that they can't meet your standard. That doesn't mean you throw people away the moment they make a mistake. It means you communicate your needs clearly, you give them a chance to step up, and if they don't, you adjust accordingly. Here's where most people struggle, sticking to their standard when emotions get involved. It's one thing to say you want consistency and effort. It's another thing to actually walk away when you realize you're not getting it. Because let's be honest, there's comfort in familiarity. Even when someone isn't treating you the way you deserve, it can feel easier to stay than to leave and face the unknown. But ask yourself this: is temporary comfort worth long-term dissatisfaction? Every moment you spend with someone who doesn't appreciate you is a moment you could be giving to yourself, to your growth, to someone who actually sees your worth. The fear of losing someone should never be greater than the fear of losing yourself in the process of holding on. And let's talk about what happens when you actually elevate your standards and enforce. You start to attract people who respect you, who value your time, and who meet you at the level you deserve. Why? Because when you carry yourself with self-respect, you naturally filter out the people who were only there because they could get away with giving you less. You will also notice something interesting. People who once took you for granted suddenly start to panic. The moment you stop being so available, the moment you stop making excuses for them, the moment you actually mean it when you say you won't tolerate certain behavior, they feel the shift. And it's in that moment that you'll see their true colors. Either they'll step up because they realize what they're about to lose, or they'll let you go. And if they let you go, then congratulations, you just saved yourself from investing more time in someone who was never truly invested in you. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if I hold my standard and end up alone? Let me ask you this. Would you rather be alone for a little while and make space for something great, or stay in a situation where you're constantly questioning your worth? Because that's the choice. You either settle for less than what you deserve and spend your days hoping someone will change, or you create the space for someone who meets your needs from the very beginning. Raising your standards isn't just about how you date, it's about how you live. It's about deciding that you are worthy of effort, time, love, and consistency. And once you truly believe that, you won't have to force anyone to see your value. The right people will recognize it immediately, and the wrong ones will fade away. Either way, you win. The most powerful thing you can do when someone takes you for granted is to show them, through your actions, not your words, that their absence does not diminish your life. That you are not sitting around waiting for them to finally see your worth. You are already living as someone who knows her worth. And when you do that, something incredible happens. They start to notice, they start to wonder, they start to feel the impact of your absence in a way they never did when you were always there, always available, always making an effort while they got to coast. See, people don't realize the value of something they assume will always be there. It's human nature. When you make someone the center of your world while they're making you an afterthought, you create an imbalance. And that imbalance makes them believe, consciously or not, that you'll always be there, no matter how little they contribute. They never have to fight for you because you're never giving them a reason to think they might lose you. But when you start to genuinely thrive, when you start to prioritize your own happiness, your own growth, your own goals, without needing them to validate you, everything shifts. It's not about playing games. It's not about making them jealous. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about actually building a life where you are fulfilled, regardless of whether they are a part of it. A life where you wake up excited, not because of a text from them, but because you've designed a life that excites you. A life where you're surrounded by people who uplift you, who appreciate you, who see your value, without needing to lose you first. The irony is, the moment you stop making them the center of your attention, they often start turning their attention toward you. Why? Because suddenly they feel what life is like without you constantly there, and that absence is powerful. When you're always available, they don't have to wonder what you're doing. They don't have to think about you. But when you're no longer catering to them, when you're no longer making them a priority, while they give you the bare minimum, they feel that shift. And that's when they start paying attention. But here's the key. You're not doing it for their attention. You're doing it for you. You're doing it because you deserve to be happy, to feel fulfilled, to live a life that is rich and exciting, regardless of whether they ever wake up and realize what they lost. Because the truth is, you don't want someone to come back just because they miss the convenience of you. You want someone who truly sees your value, who steps up because they recognize they don't want to risk losing you again. And if they don't, if they continue to take you for granted, even after you've stepped back, even after you've shown them through your actions that you are not someone who will settle for less, then you have your answer. The most attractive thing in the world is someone who is deeply content in their own life. Someone who isn't waiting to be chosen, but is actively choosing themselves. Someone who radiates confidence not because they're trying to impress someone, but because they know they are worthy. When you embody that, you don't chase, you don't beg, you don't try to convince someone to treat you better. You simply live in a way that demands respect, not through words, but through the way you carry yourself. And if they come back, if they suddenly start putting in effort when they see you thriving, that's when you watch their actions, not their words. Because words are easy. I miss you. I've been thinking about you. I didn't realize what I had. Those words mean nothing unless they are backed by real, consistent effort. So if they come back, you don't immediately hand them the spot they once had. You don't reward them just because they suddenly noticed your absence. You let them show you through time, consistency, and effort that they have truly changed, that they are ready to give you the kind of relationship you deserve. And if they don't, then you keep moving forward. Because you've already built a life that fulfills you, a life where you are whole with or without them. When you live this way, one of two things will happen. Either they will step up and finally treat you the way you deserve, or you will realize you never needed them in the first place. Either way, you win.